Hi, I'm making this podcast to share the way I make sense of the incident that led to Barb Hart's termination. I use the information available to us to make sense of the incident. Basically, we have the report provided by the mother, a redacted incident report. And we have the letter Barb Hart sent to the PTO, and we have some other bits and pieces of information made available by the media. So the incident happens after the student enters the general education classroom at 12:30. So he's presumably coming from specialized instruction because it's a special education teacher who brought him to the general education classroom. There's also a paraprofessional, a teacher's aide in the classroom, apparently a special education paraprofessional. So there are two more adults in the classroom besides Barb Hart. And thanks to that, we can figure out what actually happened. Otherwise, everyone would have had to buy Barb Hart's side of the story. According to the incident report, the student typically chooses the tub or does MyPath on his Chromebook. This is just one sentence from the incident report, but it is very revealing. So the sentence suggests that the kid has a strict routine. So the kid's special needs involve adherence to a rigid routine. I don't have that in my family. I don't have it myself, and I'm not an expert either, but it is well known that an unexpected change to the routine or the interruption of the routine can really stress those kids. It can lead to meltdowns, we know that. I follow Russell Lehman on LinkedIn, for example. He's very candid about those meltdowns. For instance, when his flight is canceled or delayed, and he misses a meeting or an event that he is supposed to attend because of that, he has a meltdown at the airport. That's why that one sentence in the incident report is very revealing. So the kid needs to adhere to a routine, and obviously Barb Hart has a total disregard for that. We know that she has to do an assessment. She has to assess him before the upcoming parent-teachers conference, and obviously she doesn't want to do it, but she has to do it, so she wants to get it over with. She seems very rushy and pushy, and that obviously puts a great deal of pressure on the kid. So Barb Hart wants to take him to the table. What she does at this point is not quite clear because of the redactions. I assume the mother redacted this report. Because the verb is redacted, we don't know if she takes him to the table, or she directs him to the table, or she drags him to the table. For some strange reason, the verb is redacted here. So she blah blah to the table and expresses that tubs weren't a choice at this time. So she shows total disregard for his need for a routine. And he reacts to that. He elopes from the room and goes into the hallway. And the way he acts is concerning. He drops into the floor and lays in the hallway on his knees with his face on the floor. Apparently, the kid gave a fight or flight response to the way Barb Hart treated him. It seems like he is scared of her and he doesn't want to go back to the classroom. She uses his favorite toy and books to lure him back into the classroom, which really seems pathetic. Pathetic because she's kind of trying to bribe him into coming back to the classroom. Of course, you can use favorite toys or small rewards sometimes, but you need to make sure the kid has a positive experience afterwards. If he comes back to the classroom but has a negative experience afterwards, then those small rewards won't work next time. And it is obvious that they don't work at all in this case. It seems like the paraprofessional and the special education teacher try to comfort him and convince him to come back to the classroom. But he's not convinced, and they end up staying with him in the hallway for 15 minutes. Then Barb Hart once again tries to encourage him to come back to the classroom. He refuses. So all this time, the special education teacher and the paraprofessional obviously make a lot of effort to comfort him and convince him. Barb Hart only tries twice and uses a toy and books to lure him to classroom, and after they don't work for the second time, she basically picks him up, carries him into the classroom, and places him on the floor next to something called the safe space. That does not sound good. It seems like she put him on the floor, away from the other kids, so he is isolated from the other kids. She basically makes him stand out, and the whole time he has been crying and screaming. So she brings him back to the classroom crying and screaming and leaves him like that in a remote part of the classroom. She basically humiliates him. Not only she causes a meltdown, but she also humiliates him. But the way Barb Hart describes the incident is very different. It sounds like she was going to do a simple assessment, but he refused to follow instructions. He defied the teacher. He challenged the teacher's authority. He walked out of the classroom in protest. And he refused to come back, continued to challenge the instructions, continued to defy, continued to protest. And the two other adults who were there, the worthless special education teacher and the paraprofessional, they're useless. They couldn't bring him back for 15 minutes. So when they failed to bring him back after 15 minutes, I went there. I picked him up and brought him back and placed him where he belonged.